Sev Omnis, and in this video I'll explain Ukrainian Lost Media iceberg. So let's go about the iceberg as a format for the picture. On the upper layer, you can find famous facts, moments, books, etc. On lower layers, you can discover unpopular facts, which you probably haven't idea. Kui Dumka. Kui Dumka is a music TV show that was shown in the late 2000s. For example, among the famous Ukrainian music groups was Quest Pistols. They also sometimes showed quite vintage tracks. For example, English language music from the 1960s, for the sake of comparisons, in some moments, status, fully lost. Gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is also this film by Mikhail Shor known under the titles Sins of Youth and For the Sins of Others, which was filmed at the VUFKU. It was probably 2,008 meters long. About the plot of this film. Recently married Ivan Fomenko goes on a business trip to the city to buy goods for his own business. During the trip, he meets his old friend Solovyev there. The friends decide to drink for their meeting and in this state go to the House of Tolerance. At home, Ivan realizes that during that party with a friend he caught and, moreover, has already infected his wife with a bad disease. The pseudo-treatment by the witch doctor did not help at all. The young couple is born a blind child after about 9 months of pregnancy. The Fomenkos still do not dare to seek medical help. All the possible consequences of their indecision were catastrophic. The couple loses the opportunity to ever have children at all. If we talk too briefly about the meaning, then it is about sexual hygiene in general. Filming began on July 19, 1927, but ended on December 27, 1927. As you can understand, before some screenings there were lectures from venereologists about sexually transmitted diseases. Unfortunately, the film has not survived to this day. Status, fully lost. Fighter TIMC1 game. As I mentioned, Fighter and other games that were on similar arcades were quite popular in the 1980s. But they practically all have not survived. But you can understand what it is about fighter planes. Status, fully lost. Treasure Island. This game is based on Robert Louis Stevenson's book Treasure Island. This game has not survived over time. Status, fully lost. Volodymyr Saussure, Makhno Lost Poem. Makhno is a poem by Volodymyr Saussure. This book is also called Primakov and Shot Immortality. In principle, this poem was started to be written around the 1940s, but was finished in 1960 and published in 1988, namely 23 years after the author's death. Makhno is a poem by Volodymyr Saussure. This book is also called Primakov and Shot Immortality. In principle, this poem was started to be written around the 1940s, but was finished in 1960 and published in 1988, namely 23 years after the author's death. I also managed to find sites that provide an opportunity to read this poem in fragments. Status, partly lost. Car racing. This game is about car racing. As usual with arcades like this, they're gone forever. Status, fully lost. Ziu, the interview, an 11-year-old from the emailed these all year. Interview, an 11-year-old girl from Ukraine emailed these this year. All Year is a song from Zushu's 2008 album Women as Lovers. Ziu, known for their often provocative and emotionally intense music, explore themes of trauma, emotional distress, and complex personal narratives in this track. The song itself is structured as an unsettling and deeply emotional portrayal of an exchange between the narrator, presumably the interviewer, and an 11-year-old girl from Ukraine. The concept behind the song involves a series of emails sent by this girl throughout the year, each one revealing her emotional turmoil and personal experiences. The girl is depicted as struggling with painful, difficult realities, and the emails serve as a conduit for her to communicate her suffering. The lyrics of the song convey a sense of confusion, desperation, and vulnerability, and they deal with themes such as the loss of innocence, isolation, and the violence of the world around her. Zushu's lead singer, Jamie Stewart, has often said that the song is meant to evoke empathy and reflect the dark, painful reality of certain childhood experiences that are far removed from the typical innocence associated with youth. The title itself is somewhat ambiguous, leaving room for interpretation. The emails could be seen as a metaphor for how we encounter and process traumatic or unsettling experiences, with the girl symbolizing a voice from the margins, one that is too often ignored or misunderstood. The track creates an emotional narrative that can be haunting and thought-provoking. I know that during the explanation you see the full lyrics of this song, which sounds like a podcast. The gripping, urgent, and moving diary of young Ukrainian refugee Yeva Skalitska. It follows 12 days in Ukraine that changed 12-year-old Yeva's life forever. I was surprised myself when I decided to listen to it completely from beginning to end. Maybe, fortunately, I found it and then decided to find the text form from beginning to end. I was surprised myself because it is too long there. If anything, in the lyrical part that is in this, it was a plausible song lyric.
Котигорошко.
I decided to find information about this game, but discovered that it was made for arcades. Also, this game was made for pioneer houses in the 80s of the last century. If we talk about it, it was for separate buildings that had extracurricular activities. For example, there were clubs for ballet, martial arts, drawing, and the like. I hadn't any idea about cinemas, but that arcades were popular among students. Anyway, I'm about this game. What I understood was that it was 8-bit throughout the gameplay, from the visuals to the sound effects. Maybe any parents who were in the USS or around the 1980s could remember. This game was inspired by the Ukrainian fairy tale about Kuturishko, so you know about the plot of this game. As I see, this game became Lost Media after 1990s. Spoiler, this moment is related to the same games for TIAMC1. Status, fully lost. Car Eats Car Browser Game, VKOK. This is a flash game that was on platforms like Contact and Odnoklassniki. It's a good thing that these social networks were blocked because there is too much Russian propaganda there and the fact that there has been a war in eastern Ukraine since 2014. Plus, I didn't register there because I have considered those two social networks a joke in Ukraine since then. Fortunately, I still think so. What you can understand about the game's plot is that you have to drive and destroy NPCs in the form of cars and get points, status, partly found. Dragon Island TIAMC1 game. I just found out that TIAMC1 was developed in Vinnytsia, Ukraine, by the Extreme Ukraine company in the mid-1980s under the leadership of V.B. Gerasimov, but it also quickly disappeared in the 1990s. I won't speculate about the plot because I searched for information on Google, so I won't lie. Status, fully lost. Guys from Our Village. Guys from Our Village is a Ukrainian trash show on QTV. You can tell it's the late 2000s, early 2010s. Speaking of the plot, there are a lot of dangerous stunts in it so that they won't be repeated in reality. What's shown there is done by professionals. Unfortunately, only the trailer has survived, but not all the episodes. Status, fully lost. Periscom unknown here. Lost play by Mykola Kulish. Mykola Kulish, a prominent Ukrainian playwright of the early 20th century, created a screenplay called Paris Commune in 1934. The name of the screenplay comes from the abbreviation Paris Commune. That was the name of the collective farm in Kulish's native village in the Kalinkat district of the Kherson region, which he visited in 1933. During this visit, the playwright was struck by the difficult living conditions of the peasants. He saw how children suffered from hunger, which deeply impressed him. These observations form the basis of the screenplay Paris Commune, where the main character is a young student poet, romantic and dreamer, who during his summer internship works as a foreman in a group of girls with a criminal past. The theme of the work focuses on the collision of dreams with harsh reality and moral victory over it. The script was approved by the management of Ukrfilm for its vivid images, characters, and dialogues, but it was noted that it lacked intrigue and plot. Despite this, filming began at the Kyiv Film Studio. However, due to the deterioration of Kulish's health, caused by the experiences he had and his illness, work on the film was stopped. Otayman Khmyl. Otayman Khmyl is a 1920s Ukrainian silent film directed by Volodymyr Hardin at the Odessa and Yalta film factories of the VUFKU based on Lev Nikolin's story Khmyl, which tells about the transition of a bourgeois intellectual to the side of the proletariat, an evolutionary melodrama based on Lev Nikolin's story Khmyl. 1917. The main character of the film, a bourgeois intellectual, does not sympathize with any side and avoids revolutionary events. However, as a result of a series of adventurous adventures, love intrigues, and communication with the people, he switches to the side of the proletariat. The filming of the film began in March and was completed in May 1923. The film premiered on January 22, 1924 in Leningrad and April 17, 1924 in Moscow. The film has not survived. Status: fully lost. W13. W13. Guys, I tried to find something, but found a racing car by Mercedes. Status: fully lost. Lviv Catacombs. Although I have not been to Lviv and have not found a description of this film, there is still such well-known information that under Lviv there is an extensive network of dungeons called the Lviv Catacombs. Inaki Beniki. Inaki Beniki is a Ukrainian children's television game show that was broadcast on the UT1 channel from January 23, 1993 to July 18, 1995. The exact number of episodes is still unknown. Briefly about this program, the rules of the game were as follows. First, the game involves only, and this is logical, two main teams Iniki and Beniki, 5 people in each team, as well as reserve players. The winning team goes to the next game, and the place of the eliminated team is taken by the 5 best reserve players. Second, in each of the 4 to 5 rounds, the teams are given a random but specific task. Some tasks are verbal, for example, writing some harmful advice on a given topic. Most tasks are related to the Lego constructor, for example, using Lego to depict some abstract concept or situation. Although all that was possible at that time with a limited number of parts. 1 or more team players present the resulting idea from the construction set. In parallel with all teams, the task is performed by reserve players. They also evaluate the performance of the teams. Each reserve player puts a ball in the aquarium of the team for which he votes. The team that has more such balls at the end of the game wins. In special editions, the evaluation system could be different. For example, to win, it was necessary to win in more rounds. A little about interaction with TV viewers. In each edition, the hosts read letters from young TV viewers and fans of this program. Children send various riddles, poems, and stories of their composition. The authors of the selected letters receive a prize from the sponsor in the form of a Lego construction set. Status: partly found. Sorchin Fair of 1927. Sorchin Fair of 1927 is a film adaptation of the story of the same name by Nikolai Gogol. About the plot, the godfather Salopi arrives at the fair in Sorochintsy with his grumpy wife Kivria and pretty daughter Paraska. The girl immediately catches the eye of the cheerful young man Ritz, and he also takes a liking to her. Maybe everything would have been fine. As always happens in such cases, Hrytsia should not laugh at his future mother-in-law. Kivria bursts into hatred for the guy. Gypsies, cattle dealers, intervene in the matter. They promise to help Hrytsia if he gives away the oxen cheaply. They agree. And then a demonic red scroll, an evil spirit, appears at the fair. The gypsies lock Kivria in a barn, and Paraska and Hrytsia have the opportunity to get married. Unfortunately, the film itself wasn't saved. Status: fully lost. Boyarinya manuscript by Lesia Ukrainka. I remember it was somewhere in 9th or 10th grade for a program on Ukrainian literature. In short, I found information that Lesia Ukrainka wrote this patriotic feminist poem in about 3 days in the city of Helwan, which is located near Cairo. I explained why she was not in Ukraine but in Egypt, all because she was being treated for tuberculosis. Feeling the difficult fate of the work, Lesia Ukrainka thought it would be better to sign the work with a pseudonym, which she consulted with her mother in a letter dated December 28, 1912. Thomas the Train and Friends 1997-98, Ukrainian dubbing. In short, when I was writing the script for this video, I accidentally remembered the briefcase of my former classmate from the 5th grade. I'm not talking about that. It's about the Ukrainian dub of Thomas and His Friends, which was in 1997 and 1998. It was mostly shown on ICTV, although it is known in Ukraine as Thomas and Friends. The Ukrainian dubs of the first and second series have Ringo Starr's voice in the background. The third series has George Carlin's voice in the first 13 episodes, and the last 13 episodes of the third series as well as all of the fourth series have Michael Angelis' voice. The opening credits from the 17th series onwards credit Mark Morrigan as the narrator, even though it was redubbed. Status: fully lost. Lego Express. Lego Express is a children's TV show that aired from October 21, 1995 to December 15, 1996. Later, it was shown from December 5 to December 28, 1997. All this was shown on UT1 and each episode lasted about 80 minutes. Fortunately, it was conducted in Ukrainian, long before all the language laws that were adopted later. I decided to watch what is in the public domain to learn about it. If we talk about what this TV show is about, then they present any buildings, attractions, public transport, and the like in Ukraine, but at the same time what was not ashamed to show at that time. I admit honestly, now more places can be shown to foreigners, but at the same time not banal places and phrases like I was in Ukraine because I watch stories on social networks or I'll Google it. So I know I'm a little distracted. Now about the program itself. There were two teams, which were just separate families. They fought for different prizes in different competitions. As you could understand from the program's name, everything was around Lego. It was quite interesting that each family presented the projects that they made from Lego. At the same time, they were completely different, even with different mechanics if such an opportunity existed. Everything they did there was just like fragments from Legoland. At the same time, some enthusiasts could add national symbols until 2022, when it became so fashionable in Ukraine that even now some graphic designers are asked for souvenir collections even where it is not at all on the topic. I was even pleasantly surprised by one of the participants because his actions would have been completely approved in 2022. If we talk about the hosts of this program, were Bueller Amaziuba and Anatoly Sukhanov. Later, this same program was hosted by Volodymyr Stupak. All that is on YouTube are a few episodes saved and published over time. Therefore, the status is partly found. The Divine Comedy translated by Dragomari. If we talk about the Divine Comedy, then it is a work by Dante Alighieri. So this is the work in which 7 separate levels of heaven and hell are described. It also has 3 parts called Hell, Purgatory, and Paradise. If we talk about the translation by Mikhail Drakmara, then it is mostly about hell and purgatory. He translated it over 5 years, namely from 1930 to 1935, the Hymn of Catherine II. I already started thinking that this was as zoophile as physical love. I sincerely condemn this perversion inclination towards horses, but not about that. As it turned out, it was about a film from the Ukrainian Women's Union. If it's too short, it's about Catherine II and the fact that she did bad things towards Ukrainians, specifically towards the Cossacks. Status: fully lost. X-Rift. About the game. X-Rift is an augmented reality game that can be installed on a phone. If we talk about interaction with other players, then now this is a fairly familiar situation for everyone who has played various online games. Also, one of the, for me, a bad decision features of this game was GPS coordinates, in the sense that you could see your geolocation. Status: fully lost. The Chancellor and the Locksmith. Nordland is waging a rather exhausting war with Galicia. Therefore, thousands of workers have been mobilized to the front. The state is impoverished by this. A full-fledged revolution is brewing. To stop all development for the revolutionary movement, the Chancellor appoints the leader of the Social Democrats, the demagogue Frank Frey, as Minister of Labor. He flirts with the workers, convinces them of the sanctity of the cause of waging war to a victorious end, and in the meantime prepares to seize power in the country. With the support of the industrial and military elite, Frey carries out a complete coup and manages to overthrow the Emperor of Nordland from the throne. But the people of Nordland itself, led by their revolutionary leader, the locksmith Franz Stark, carry out a socialist revolution. Screen adaptation of the play by Anatoly Lunacharsky, the Chancellor and the Locksmith. Filming began in May 1923. The film premiered on March 4, 1924 in Leningrad and July 12, 1924 in Moscow. The film has survived without parts 1 and 6, status partly lost. So this part is going to the end. Don't forget about like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.